Welcome to the live stream. Going to be talking about Trump, Syria, Russia, etc. Going to update you on the YouTube advertiser boycott. It has been a very, very long day. I spent a number of hours in our studio this afternoon with Ben Dixon, host of the Benjamin Dixon program, who is broadcasting out of our studio. And he is very excited, as am I, about some of the upcoming changes to the studio, which you'll see. You'll see more. People already saw the larger TV on yesterday's show, but that is a very, very small piece of all of the changes that we're making. So some really, really exciting stuff going on, and I look forward to you figuring it out. But I am not in studio today. I am home, and we are going to indeed talk in some pretty significant detail about what's going on with Trump and Russia. I sort of thought we were done for the week, but not at all. In fact, news continues to break on this over the last hour or two. People also talking about how this relates to what's going on with Russia, and I'm going to talk about that. We are, Super Chat is on. We're going to take questions. I do want to let people know we are still dealing with the YouTube advertiser boycott. I'll get into more detail about that soon, but the Patreon page at patreon.com/David Pakman Show, we're now targeting 1,000 patrons. It's gone well in the early days, and we're targeting that, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. So the big news, I actually am not even really sure where to start with the Trump-Syria story, because I could start with Trump launching 59 Tomahawk missiles at Syria, ostensibly in retaliation to the recent chemical attack that we learned of. Or I could go to the day before with the removal of Trump propagandist Steve Bannon from the National Security Council. Or I could go to a couple of days before to the terror attack in Russia. Or we could go back to Donald Trump's statements about what he would do in Syria during the campaign or even earlier. And I think the point I'm making is there's a lot of backstory here, okay? So what we do know is that, yes, Donald Trump launched what, I don't even really know what the term is. It's not the first military action authorized by Trump. We know about the botched Yemen raid that led to 30 civilians dead and a Navy SEAL's death as well. We know about the drone attacks that have been signed off on by Donald Trump. In any case, this is the first sort of use of this type of military force, I guess is what we could say. And the first barrage of emails I got was, David, you said that this would be the perfect time for some kind of either terrorist attack or military action to distract from the mounting scandals of the Donald Trump administration. A few days after I said it, Noam Chomsky actually said it. The Trump White House would benefit from a terror attack. Actually, gun sales would as well, which interestingly enough are down under President Trump. I'm not a false flag conspiracy guy, and we can talk about the political repercussions of what went on here. I don't even think the term false flag really applies to what we saw, because we sort of know what happened. It's the political consequences and circumstances surrounding it that I think are more interesting to talk about, and we're going to talk about that, okay? So, number one, there's this idea that this is an appeal to Donald Trump being presidential. He started launching missiles. And I think that the optics of this are actually, with regard to not the consequences in terms of life and death, but the optics of this are really important relative to what this means more broadly about Trump foreign policy. Like, I started seeing speculation about, wow, this signals X about Trump foreign policy more broadly, or it signals Y. I think that what you'll come away with by the time I'm done talking to you about this is that this really doesn't tell us anything more broadly about Trump foreign policy. It tells us what we already knew, which is that there's a sort of erratic, aimless nature that is not forward thinking and is not consistent, or is internally contradictory about what Donald Trump is doing here. And we're going to get into the details of that, okay? So, number one, in the 6-year Syrian civil war, this is the most prominent action being taken, direct action by a president of the United States in this way, Interestingly, it's something that Donald Trump opposed doing for years. This was going to be the president who wasn't going to get us into wars. Hillary was going to get us into wars. There's been a lot of discussion about the prior tweets that Donald Trump has sent about this. Like, for example, what will we get for bombing Syria besides more debt and a possible long-term conflict? Obama needs congressional approval. This is a very interesting tweet from Donald Trump from the Obama era that we can go back to, because it outlines a lot of what my critique is going to be here, that it's not clear what the strategy is. Sending 59 missiles is a tactic. It's an action, but it is not representative of a particular strategy. So Trump asking in a tweet, again, this is Trump v. Trump. It's Trump. It's Trump previous to President Trump, arguing against the actions of current President Trump. What will we get from 59 missiles? We're going to talk about that. Possible long-term conflict. I'm going to talk about that. And yes, there is this aspect of the unconstitutionality. It is formally true that Donald Trump should have sought congressional approval for this. Didn't. But I want to focus on my critique on the merits of this. The constitutionality of it is absolutely relevant. And it's something that will be talked about. It's something that is being talked about. But I want to focus more on the merits of this, okay? On the merits of it, the umbrella idea I come away with is this is a tactic and not a strategy. And I've seen nothing from the use of these 59 missiles that informs me as to what the broader strategy is going to be. And this is why I'm not taking away some broader understanding of the philosophy of the Trump White House foreign policy with respect to Syria. This is an isolated incident that we have no idea if or how it relates to a broader Trump strategy on Syria. There are a number of reasons not to get involved at all in this way, okay? I'll mention them, and then we can sort of think through which of these are more or less relevant in terms of what's going on here. Number one is, yes, that there is a possible legal issue here, the lack of constitutionality of this, but I don't want to focus on that, at least not today. Number two, airstrikes alone, based on expert assessments, are unlikely to remove the Assad government. Now, we don't know whether Trump wants to remove the Assad government. We know that on the one hand, we have the Trump-Russia scandal, Russia supportive of the Assad government, presumably under the pretense of fighting ISIS and extremists. We heard from Secretary of State Rex Tillerson lately that the Trump administration is really not that opposed to Assad staying in power. And the truth is that the airstrikes like these are very unlikely to unseat Assad's government, okay? We are under the assumption that Donald Trump is not willing to do boots on the ground. This is based on what he said, and what he said during the campaign on most issues is completely irrelevant to what he's actually doing as president now. But if you're not willing to put boots on the ground, which we have reason to believe Trump is not willing to do, airstrikes alone are unlikely to actually get the Assad government out. If your idea is, well, the U.S. can do airstrikes and that could tip the balance towards the Syrian rebels, there's a number of problems with that. Number one, there's a concept of the Syrian rebels as some kind of unified group or whatever. But the Syrian rebels are increasingly fractured, and many of those groups are increasingly radicalized. So again, the airstrikes are, number one, unlikely to tip the balance such that Syrian rebels would be able to unseat Assad. And number two, with the increased radicalization and fracturing of the Syrian rebels, if by some very unlikely scenario, the airstrikes allowed Syrian rebels, to the extent that they're one group, which they aren't, to unseat Assad, you could end up with a continued infighting between those rebel groups and the potential for a group taking power that is just as extreme, but slightly less diplomatically informed to the extent that the Assad regime is. So there are some really, really strong substantive arguments against a strike from a sort of military perspective. But there's also like the diplomatic aspect of this. And I already saw in the chat before we started here, people talking about, well, We'll talk about what this means about Trump-Russia collusion in a second. I don't think this actually tells us that much about one way or the other about Trump-Russia collusion, but this certainly risks an escalation into a major powers conflict, because whatever happened with Trump-Russia during the election, we know Russia's position on this. We know Vladimir Putin's increasing desire to become sort of an authority on the world stage in terms of geopolitics and foreign policy. And this certainly risks causing an escalation that would not really be good for anybody. That's the reality. What is being talked about most by politicians? I mean, I've heard multiple members of Congress preemptively expressing skepticism about the legality of this entire thing. Donald Trump formerly declared that a president, apparently not him, but a president at the time, Obama, would need congressional approval for such a strike. And the other aspect of this that I see people wanting me to talk about is, I turned on Fox for a second and they said that this was a surgical strike. We've started to get images and video of this missile strike. 23 of the 59 Tomahawk missiles actually reached the airbase in the province of Homs that was targeted. And based on the images that I've seen, this surgical would be the last term I would use to describe this. Haphazard or misguided might be a more accurate term. Inaccurate, I think, is a good one. So anybody saying, well, this is the precision with which we can operate, I wouldn't be bragging about that, because the video and images that I've seen don't seem at all precise in any way. So those are some of my initial thoughts. Let me go through the super chat, see what people are thinking. I will update the Patreon status later, patreon.com/David Pakman Show. Just donate $1 and I'll talk about why that dollar is important in a little bit. GR sent a $5 super chat. Presidential would-be right force, right aggression, right time, right effect, Marines in area, targeted non-spectacle was possible. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I'm not sure what GR's native language is, but I'm not completely sure what GR is talking about. But I can tell that it relates to a president and use of force, that's for sure. Matt 080670 sent a $5 super chat. I noticed when I listen to the show on YouTube and other progressive channels that the volume keeps going in and out, but not on other channels. Is that weird? I have not heard that. It sounds very odd to me. I've not heard that. $2 super chat from Danya Gopal saying, can American people stop Trump carnage in Syria? I don't know what at this point is going to influence Trump and determine what it is that Donald Trump will or won't do. I really have no idea at this point. GR sent another $2 super chat. Marines on ground, artillery, first BTN for MRB on site. I genuinely don't know what's going on. I have no idea. I have no idea what many of these super chats are about. Amal Ward is saying, GR is saying a proper president would have used some more measured tactic than simply blowing up an airfield. Oh, okay. Very good. Also, I do want to mention, people are talking about my interview with, on the scarce, that's a word I have trouble with in English, on the Go Scarce YouTube channel. I did an interview yesterday, and I am wondering, did my interview go live? I think it did. People are talking about it. I don't know where it is on the channel. Oh, yes, YouTube Blacklist Exposed. This you can find at youtube.com/GoScarce, GOSCARCE. There's a video called YouTube Blacklist Exposed where I am interviewed. This is a channel with nearly 3 million subscribers. So I'm hoping that this is going to bring in some more patrons at patreon.com/David Pakman Show, because we need it, okay? And some people saying that they came in from there. All right, so that's what we have in Super Chat so far. Let me address a couple other smaller issues that are going on in relation to what's going on with Syria, okay? Steve Bannon, I told you, it was either yesterday or the day before, that former Breitbart propagandist and current Trump propagandist Steve Bannon, who never had any business being on the National Security Council that would make decisions about things like what we are talking about here, Syria. Steve Bannon has since been removed from the National Security Council. And this is not to pat myself on the back. This was completely obvious. What I said after this was, listen, it's the right move in that Trump never had any business putting Steve Bannon. Sorry, I hit my mic there. Putting Steve Bannon on the National Security Council. I don't know that removing him actually changes anything. And what I cited as sort of evidence that I don't know that removing Bannon from the National Security Council changes anything is that before he was on the National Security Council, Steve Bannon was at this dinner with Donald Trump, where Trump very casually over dinner approved the subsequently botched raid in Yemen that led to 31 deaths, 30 civilians and 1 Navy SEAL. And Steve Bannon wasn't on the National Security Council at the time, and he still was not figuratively, but literally at the table making that decision. So I didn't believe that this really fundamentally changed anything for Steve Bannon. And that seems to have been proven true because in the photos I've seen leaked of there's a sort of equivalent in Mar-a-Lago of the White House Situation Room. And I guess that their pictures have leaked or been published. And Steve Bannon was there when operations were being discussed and reviewed for what took place in Syria. So I don't believe that there's anything different in terms of what Steve Bannon is doing, although we did read that Bannon was so incensed by this, apparently, that he threatened to quit. And there's certainly no shortage of internal chaos in the Trump inner circle. We've talked about the possible replacement of Reince Priebus, but let me put that off, and I'll get to that. I'll get to that a little bit later. The other thing I wanted to mention is, again, and this is the biggest hypocrisy for me from the entire Trump Syria thing. Okay, so if you're just joining us, to catch you up, we talked about the constitutionality of Trump's attack on Syria. I stated that it's a tactic, but not a strategy. It tells us nothing about what the broader strategy is here. And that I think it was actually bad strategy if the idea is to try to unseat Assad, that I don't think it'll work. But here's the other thing. If you believe, which presumably, let's assume for a second that this isn't just Trump trying to score presidential points, right? Trying to boost his approval rating. Let's assume Trump was horrified by learning that the Assad regime released sarin gas against its own people. So he says, we have to do something. And so the something is 59 Tomahawk missiles. If you want to do something and you're willing to do something that will have such collateral damage, what about allowing Syrian refugees in? Right? I mean, remember, we have not had refugees from the countries on Trump's 2 proposed and debunked travel bans come to the U.S. and commit acts of terror. The collateral damage, the risk of civilian death from 59 Tomahawk missiles is certainly no lower and clearly significantly higher than that of allowing Syrian refugees into the United States. How do you justify being concerned enough that you're taking military action without seeking congressional approval, but you're not concerned enough to start allowing Syrian refugees into the United States? It really doesn't make any sense to me. It really doesn't make any sense to me. And that's the big hypocrisy that, to me, proves that this was a stunt. We are worried enough to start sending missiles, but not enough to allow some refugees into the United States of America. And of course, when you think about it, what is Trump trying to communicate by launching these missiles? That he's strong, that he's not to be messed with. And although allowing Syrian refugees to come into the United States would actually do arguably much more for Syrian civilians than 59 Tomahawk missiles, allowing refugees into your country in the world of corporate and right-wing media doesn't transmit strength. If anything, it's used against you and sort of cited as a weakness. So every indication that this is an absolute and total stunt. Let me go back and sort of re-summarize the first point, and I think that at this point, many of you will probably understand what I'm saying. If you're trying to draw some philosophical conclusion about what these 59 missiles that Donald Trump launched against Syria tell us about the broader Trump foreign policy plan, don't. Because all this confirms to me is that it is so far a random, haphazard, ill-thought out, erratic, and ineffective tactic in the midst of essentially no strategy whatsoever. Now, I'm getting a lot of emails from people saying, David, there is something really weird about the Syria situation. 5 days before the chemical attack in Syria happens, Trump and the White House say, we're not actively trying to replace Assad as the leader of Syria. We get the chemical attack, which doesn't help the PR aspect of Bashar al-Assad's regime whatsoever. And then, all of a sudden, you now have this combined with banning off the National Security Council, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of weird stuff going on, but most of the people that are writing to me about it aren't communicating sort of some cohesive, bigger picture about what they think it is that's going on here, right? That's what the question is. I don't know. Propose to me, and if somebody wants to do it in Super Chat, by all means do it. Propose to me what it is you believe is either the conspiracy or broader motive or tactic here. I believe that this is a haphazard attempt from Trump to appear more presidential. Okay, couple of maintenance things here. Number one, has anybody seen any ads play during the stream, just in the middle of when I'm talking and then cut back to the stream? Because we've been testing, in the midst of the YouTube advertiser boycott, a button has popped up which allows us to play an ad at certain times. And I'm wondering if even a single person has seen one of those ads. This would be useful to us to know in terms of what functions are or aren't working on the channel right now. Like, if anybody has seen any ads at any point here. No. Everybody's saying no. Okay. Interesting. Very, very interesting. So I think that this is another aspect of what is not working on our channel, because there is actually a button, and this is so funny. I'll actually tell you what it says. I'm going to press it right now. I'm pressing play ad. It actually says, playing ad. Based on complex criteria, some of your viewers will see an ad. Keep on streaming. Okay, about 100 comments from people saying no ads. So I think pretty clearly the criteria is so complex that it's not playing any ads whatsoever. All right, let's go back to the super chat. Paulo Raimundo, a €5 super chat saying just greetings from Portugal. A $5 super chat from GR. Yes, David, Syrians run for their lives from Syrian dictators. Find USA closed for racist maintenance. Watch out for bomb-relate maintenance dust, period. Sorry. That's a mouthful, GR, but yes, absolutely. A €10 super chat from Fabio Fontes. You oughta get a straight-up PayPal donation link as well. An extra method for people to throw money at ye. Never hurts. Greets from Portugal. Portugal game is strong today. And a $5 Canadian super chat from Victoria Lynn saying, I think that the attack was Trump attempting to assist Putin in starting a war. What do you think? Okay, now see, that's interesting. That's interesting because there are those who have never bought into Trump Russia ever, okay? And I get their emails all the time. And as soon as this happened, I got emails saying, David, are you ready to apologize for everything you've said about Trump Russia? Because Trump would never go against Putin by doing this. And what Victoria Lynn is doing is thinking beyond more than one layer, right? And thinking, well, if Putin's broader goal is to create an escalation here or to start a war, then this could be an interesting way to do it. The thing is, the U.S. would have to get out from under this, and if all Trump plans to do is send 59 missiles and nothing else, then that may be the way to do it. But that's interesting, Victoria Lynn. I find that pretty interesting. Okay. What do I want to talk about next? Okay, so there's enough people asking about the YouTube advertiser boycott that I should mention this, and then what I plan to get to is the chaos in Trump's inner circle, how that relates to Syria. We'll continue taking super chats and a whole bunch of other stuff. So 30-second catch-up, okay? 5 days ago, The YouTube advertiser boycott led to a switch being flipped on the David Pakman Show YouTube channel. Our revenue went to effectively nothing, okay? We used to make between 40 and 50% of our revenue, depending on the month, from YouTube. That is now effectively zero. Other than the super chats and some YouTube red money, we're basically making no money, okay? So I actually want to show you this right here, just to show you what I'm talking about. This is our YouTube earnings. And as you can see, this goes back to sort of late January, around the inauguration of Donald Trump. And as you can see here, starting on March 31st, it effectively went to zero. It wasn't actually zero. We still made a few bucks on those days. But can people see this graphic, by the way? Yes, you can. Okay, just making sure. But what's even crazier is that then it got even worse. It actually got so much worse that those 3 days at the end actually look even better. This is the updated graph, and those days that looked like zero, we actually made just over $6 on YouTube. And look at the pop-up there for April 4th, 2017, 34 cents. 34 cents in estimated partner revenue. So it's bad. We're in the middle of studio upgrades. We're doing a whole bunch of stuff, and we basically need to make up this revenue. Okay, so I've said this in a number of different ways. Here's my pitch to you. Okay, and I know I've talked about membership. I know I've talked about Patreon and $5 donations and $25 donations. What I'm asking you is for $1. Okay, each YouTube ad, if we had any playing that you watch, sends us about 1/5 of a penny. So if you watched all 160 to 180 of our videos every month, you would be sending us somewhere between 30 and 60 cents per month, okay? If you go to patreon.com/David Pakman Show and donate $1, that's it. You've made up everything you would have sent us. You've made up with a few extra pennies in there. And obviously, all 342,000 subscribers of ours aren't going to do this. We estimate that only between 1 and 1.5% of our audience actually supports the show financially directly. But if you are one of those individuals who can go to patreon.com/David Pakman Show and donate just $1, then you've taken care of yourself. Right? You've paid your share, so to speak, and you're good. Now, if you can donate more, right now we've got 435 people at patreon.com/David Pakman Show that are donating $2. And that's great, right? If you can donate $2, that's even better. You're now making up for more than 2 people. We have 190 people donating $5 a month. We've got 60 people donating $10 a month. We have 27 people donating $25 a month. I've been asked to add something between the $25 and $100 levels, and I've done that. So we've now added a $50 level. We're calling it the senior producer level at $50 per month. We have 2 people at the $100 per month level. And so far, nobody's taken the bite on the secretary of the David Pakman Show at $250. Or vice president of the David Pakman Show at $1,000. But they're there. They're there because somebody might do it, and we don't want to turn anybody away. So that's what I'm asking for, right? If you can just do $1 through Patreon, that's $12 for the entire year. I think that's a pretty good deal for the 24 hours a month of content that we produce, and I think that's what we're asking for, and we're building it up. By the way, my goal right now, I'm going to get back to politics in a second. I would like to get to 1,000 patrons by the end of this stream. Right now, we're at 847 patrons. It would be huge if we could get to 1,000 patrons. Okay, let me deal with a couple of the super chats, and then we'll get on to some other stuff. We've got a $2 super chat from Jose, who says, "Hi, David. How was your day, and how's Lewis's? My day has been long. It's been a long day. And Lewis is actually traveling right now. I don't know if I'm allowed to say where he is. It may be something he's keeping private, but he is out of the country currently. So hopefully he's having a good day." Jens Enzo Nyby Christensen sent a $1 super chat with no comment or question. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Okay, so let's get to the bigger, broader issue now of what can we learn about the chaos in Trump's inner circle based on what's going on with Syria, Steve Bannon, and also the possible replacement of Reince Priebus. It seems like things are pretty chaotic, and there's a number of hypotheses about what might be or might have been the impetus for the Syria strike that we've seen. And the timing of Steve Bannon having removed from the National Security Council, I think, is mostly coincidental, again, because Steve Bannon was involved in national security decisions before being on the NSC, and he seems to continue being involved as he was pictured in the room yesterday, the sort of makeshift situation room for the Syria decision. So I don't think that that's that big of a thing. The bigger thing is a report that Steve Bannon reportedly considered quitting after being removed from the NSC. Unclear if that's true, but a number of inside reports suggesting that. And number two, that it appears as though there is already a short list for the possible replacement of Reince Priebus, or as I like to call him, Rince Priebus. And that is indicative to me of more chaos than the removal of Bannon per se. And there's a video of Bannon. This is very speculative here, right? But I don't know if you remember earlier in the week, I did a video about Donald Trump mumbling like 2 sentences under his breath in the Oval Office and then leaving without signing some executive orders that he was there to sign. And Steve Bannon was pictured in a video sort of off camera as the cameras were really focused on Trump leaving. But you could see at one point Steve Bannon, and he had a look on his face sort of like, yeah, that type of thing. And that started to strike me as sort of like Bannon kind of gets that it's crazy what's going on here and things aren't exactly right. So I think there's definitely chaos in the Trump inner circle, and we'll see ultimately whether someone ends up being pushed out or not. And only time will tell. Big thank yous to Frog, Catherine Cregan, Rhea Kirby, Ross Deddens, Mike, Sasha Gelbart, Zorglob, Don McKenzie, all of whom have become patrons, ranging from $2 to $5 a month at patreon.com/David Pakman Show. This is, of course, something we basically have to do because of the YouTube advertiser boycott, which has reduced our revenue on YouTube, as I previously mentioned, to only 34 cents on April 4th, 2017, outside of Super Chat revenue. You can make up for that by contributing just even $1 at patreon.com/David Pakman Show. Of course, membership has not disappeared. You can go to davidpakman.com/membership and sign up for membership. The advantage of that is you, in addition to contributing to the show, you also get all of the great member benefits, including what we call the bonus show. Things can get a little wacky on the bonus show. We recently, vegan producer Pat has some vegan admirers, one of whom sent us vegan cheese made from hazelnuts and hemp. Of course, the biggest difference between vegan cheese and cheese is that vegan cheese isn't cheese. And that was very, very noticeable to me when we tried it on the bonus show. Although Pat said it was the best vegan cheese he had ever had, so I gave him the entire block of it. We also got, I was at the studio today doing some work, and we got in the mail vegan chocolates, which we will be trying, I assume, on the Monday bonus show. So you can sign up and get access to that at davidpakman.com/membership. Thanks to Dave Bichet, Stacy Layton, Wallace Rourke, Mandy Calderon, Victor Holguin, Tyler Rodenberg, Farhad Farzaneh, Kiyo Hayasaka, Jeremy Glasgow, as well as Ian Pitchford, okay, all of whom have signed up at davidpakman.com/membership. Do either, do both, okay? Get a $3 membership and donate $2 or $3 to Patreon and cover both bases, and that's really, really great. Okay, let's see a lot of action in the super chat here. So let's take a look at what's going on here. Skankhunt42 has sent a $2 super chat. Rupert Murdoch owns the Wall Street Journal. Is this a financial attack from cable news? Absolutely might be. Absolutely might be. And we've talked about that as far as the YouTube advertiser boycott. Mystic Resistance has sent a $5 super chat. Secular Talk says the strikes are Trump trying to prove he's not a Russian lackey. Also, Reddit 4chan Trumpists are finally abandoning him. Thoughts? Okay, so two thoughts. I've been in touch with Kyle daily because of what's going on with the YouTube advertiser boycott. We're both in rough shape here, okay? We have not talked about the Trump-Russia stuff. Here's the thing. Kyle, for a while, has not thought that the Trump-Russia thing was as significant as I've thought it was, and it's a difference of opinion. I don't disagree with Kyle that the strikes might be Trump trying to prove he's not a Russian lackey. However, there's two reasons he might want to prove that. Trump might be wanting to do something to distance from Russia because he really has nothing to do with Russia. Or Trump is trying to do something to publicly distance from Russia because he does have something to do with Russia and is trying to distance himself publicly. So it doesn't really tell us anything. And I'll dig into that more on the Monday show. Ben Grogan has sent a £5 super chat. Hi, David. With regards to Trump, is it plausible that this attack on Syria is an allegory telling China to keep Korea in control and big states are no death? Okay, I'm not sure about that last part. If this is to send a message to China about North Korea, I think it is an inefficient means to send a message to China about North Korea. That's my thought about that. GR has sent a $5 super chat. If I donate $1, you'll me off super chat blast. Donatin' to Pack Nation now. I am changing my libation to Miller Lite from Tanqueray Gin. Pack Deezy Pleasy. Okay, so GR may be drunk. I think that maybe that is the best explanation so far about what's going on with GR. Gabrielle McGregor sent a $10 super chat. Trump has said he will not publicly discuss war plans or potential attacks beforehand. Brilliant strategy? Or an attempt to circumvent accountability? It's not brilliant strategy. We've talked about this before. Laying out what your approach would be to something like defeating ISIS is not giving up tactical secrets that would compromise what you're doing. So Trump's thing about I wouldn't reveal my plans beforehand is bogus. Remember when the pizza dude, Herman Cain, was asked, and he said, well, I'll just develop the plans when I get in by putting the best people around me. And Trump's figured out something that's better than that, which is during the election, he clearly had no idea what his plans would be because he didn't know anything. He still doesn't know anything about foreign policy. And it's a pretty good way for him to not have to talk about these things. I think that it's more about using it to circumvent accountability. I don't think it's a brilliant strategy. Karen Hernandez has sent a $5 super chat saying, keep up the good work, David. Thank you very, very much. Continued thank yous to Alicia Barber, Carrie Ryder, Ernesto Dela Cruz, and Trina Nagel. Trina Nagel is officially the first $50 patron at patreon.com/David Pakman Show. We have $200 a month patrons. We now have our first $50 a month patron. Thank you very, very much. We are up to 857 patrons. I am targeting 1,000 patrons by the end of the stream. We started with 843. We have already added 14. And I don't think 1,000's unreasonable. I mean, if we don't make it during the stream, I think that not long thereafter, it's possible that we could get there. Also, of course, membership is available. A number of new members signing up while we've been chatting here. I mentioned Ian. We have Patricia New, Joseph Grillman, Austin Amberg, Anne Caruli, William Kennedy, Heidi Suto, Adas Mudry, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, Eva Shurich, and Jennifer Magyar, all of whom have signed up at davidpakman.com/membership, taking advantage, most of them taking advantage of the coupon code we have, which gives you 40% off. That coupon code is IVoted17. Take a sip of water here because the super chats are coming so fast and furious that it's actually making me thirsty. Isaiah Rowe has sent a $10 super chat saying, Maybe you've talked about this, but do you think Assad actually was responsible for the chemical attacks? I do think so. I know that there are different views about this, but mine is mostly based on the military assessments that I've read have indicated that nobody else would be capable of doing something like this. And numerous eyewitness reports, not only from victims, but from journalists, have debunked. We heard from Russia that what happened was that the airstrikes were against the bad rebels by good Assad people. And they blew up a chemical weapons factory that was a rebel chemical weapons factory. Okay, so it's basically the opposite. Instead of dropping the sarin gas, they blew up the rebels' sarin gas factory. And there seems to be no evidence to support that whatsoever. What we know about the capabilities of the rebels reject that or contradict that. What we know about the eyewitness reports from both journalists and aid organizations, everything contradicts that. So I do believe that it was Assad. Yes, I believe it was Assad. Fruity Cat Girl sent a 20, I think that's Danish kroner super chat. I think that's about $3 if I recall correctly. No question or comment. Thank you very much. Ben Grogan has sent a $5 British pound super chat. Big states, no defense I meant. Are Russia to Syria? China to Korea. In other words, he met China Prime Minister. Russia ire may be worth not redeploying to intimidate Korea. Okay, I think I sort of get what you're saying, Ben. And yeah, let me think about that. See what I come up with. I'm not totally sure. Ninjax X has sent a $5 super chat. David, have we ever warned a target before attacking them? Great show. Okay, yes. So I didn't mention this. This is another issue that we should talk about. Reports are that we told Russia that we were going to be doing this. And that is also fueling the speculation that this may be not in concert with Russia, but not the anti-Russian move that some are making it out to be. But as far as the broader Russia story is concerned, I know I mentioned this a little bit earlier, and I want to dig into it more now. I'm curious, in the chat if you want, certainly in Super Chat if you have more of a comment, but you could just give a yes or no in the chat. Do you believe that what Donald Trump did in Syria serves as evidence that the Trump-Russia collusion scandal is bogus? Some people, so say yes if you think the Syrian bombing suggests to you there is no Russia collusion scandal. Say no if you think that it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with that, okay? And I'll give you my opinion in a second. Many people have been emailing me saying, David, I think Trump-Russia is over now because Trump launched 59 Tomahawk missiles in Syria, and Syria and Russia supports Syria, so the entire thing was bogus. No, yes, not at all. No, yes, yes. No, not necessarily. No. Agnostic, no, yes, no. No. Definitely not. Nope, no. Unclear. No. Okay. Most of the people in the chat seem to be with me on this, okay? Which is even more evidence, actually, is surfacing almost daily about Trump collusion with Russia. I actually agree with something Kyle Kulinski said, even though his conclusion is different. Kyle said, according to some people in the chat, I haven't actually seen him say this, but enough people said it where I think it sounds right, that Trump, if you believe that the Trump-Syria thing is for optics, Trump might be trying to prove he's not in bed with Russia. And he might be trying to prove that because it's true he's not in bed with Russia, but he might be in bed with Russia, and this is a way he thought of to publicly, or likely Bannon or someone else thought of to publicly make it seem as though there's more distance between Trump and Russia. But just today we learned that Jared Kushner didn't just hide one meeting with Russians from his application for his top secret security clearance. He hid dozens of meetings with Russians. One of the things that he had to answer when being vetted for his top secret national security clearance was who he's met with from foreign powers, right? This is just sort of standard vetting. And there are dozens of meetings with Russian agents, officials, elected officials, diplomats, whatever, that Jared Kushner hid. So I asked this to Roger Stone earlier this week. If you didn't see my interview with Roger Stone, by all means, please check it out. We have a growing number of people lying about what they did with Russia, and Trump sending 59 missiles, 29 of which didn't even, or whatever the number was, roughly half of which didn't even hit their intended targets, warning Russia in advance, with presumably still the position that he is not going to put boots on the ground. For me, this does nothing to either push me one way or the other about the Trump-Russia thing. And it looks like from the chat that most people seem to agree with me. Okay, Aaron Cohen sent a $5 Canadian super chat saying, have you seen the obvious fake videos exposing crisis actors in Syria? There seems to be much more to the white helmets than officially advertised. Listen, I don't know if that's a completely... I don't know what you're talking about. I saw a couple of YouTubers showing video of a girl that they believe maybe wasn't really dead and was acting in Syria. It seemed insane that this is what they were saying. And so for now, every fake video I've seen seems to be like with the Sandy Hook hoax people, totally bogus and immediately incredible. So no, Aaron, I'm not actually sure what you're talking about there. Ninjax X has sent a $2 super chat saying Trump is a Russian puppet, period. We're trying to figure that out. That's exactly what we're trying to investigate. What we're trying to investigate. And for me, the Trump Syria thing so far does not really do anything to convince me otherwise. We are up to 859 patrons at patreon.com/David Pakman Show. Karen Hernandez and Victoria Lynn Walzak have added their contributions since the last time I thanked people. Thank you. We are no longer making money on YouTube, okay? Other than the super chats, we are making nothing on YouTube. I put this graphic up earlier, and I'll put it up once more. These are our YouTube ad earnings, estimated partner ad revenue. On April 4th of 2017, we made 34 cents, okay? So very, very simply, what we are trying to do is just replace the lost money. And if you send us $1 a month, you are replacing what you were contributing as a YouTube subscriber, okay? And if you can contribute more than that, by all means, we've got several hundred people contributing for $2 a month or $4 a month. The average is $4 a month. That is almost the exact average we have right now. In fact, it is $4.02 a month is the average right now. So if you can just throw in $1, that's really all we're asking for, and you've covered what we lost and a little bit more from your viewing of our YouTube videos. And that will hopefully allow us to continue doing everything we're doing uninterrupted, unfettered, all right? Also, a number of new members who get instant access to the bonus show and all the other great benefits who have signed up at davidpakman.com/membership. Eric Lucker, Andrew Paris, Corey Bakern, Alyssa Tirkanen, Margaret Ivy, Kim Grummel, Stephen Carlton, Debbie McCafferty, and Layla Pyers. And June Malura. Oh, and also Keith Henshaw. Okay, so thanks to everybody who's been signing up and during the stream, as well as people on Patreon, patreon.com/David Pakman Show. Seriously, anything you can contribute is great. A lot of these channels. So people have been wondering who I've been in touch with directly over the last few days about this YouTube scandal. I've been in touch extensively with Kyle Kolinsky from Secular Talk. I've been in touch with Benjamin Dixon of the Benjamin Dixon program. He hosts his show out of my studio, so I saw him today, see him regularly. I've been in touch with Sam Cedar today. I've been in touch with folks from the Young Turks. I've been in touch with some right-wing YouTubers through Twitter who are also having major problems, bigly tremendous problems, I guess we could call them. So I've been in touch with a lot of people, and you know what's fascinating is that some of the people I initially was writing to, they said, David, I'm not noticing the problem you're seeing. I've seen about a 30 to 50% reduction in YouTube revenue, not 99%. And I said to them, "Do you do live streams?" They said, "Yeah." I said, "Do you use Super Chat?" They said, "Yeah." I said, "You have a lot of long videos?" They said, "Yes, we do." I said, "Okay, a lot of that revenue is coming from YouTube Red and from Super Chats. Look at your ad partner, your ad revenue." And most of them said, "Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's like 90, 95, 99% of the revenue that's gone." So we're doing what we can to make it up. And I'm hoping that we can get to 1,000 patrons by the end of this stream. It's slowing down a little bit. I don't know if we can. So hopefully we'll get a few more people in there. We're up to 860 right now with the addition of Ruth Lowry. And we're going to try to keep it going. Where is the fucking bunny has sent a $5 super chat. If Trump is found to be linked to Russia and is removed, wouldn't all of his appointments be removed too? If so, who would be, quote, in charge? No idea. No idea. I've been asking lawyers this exact same question. If Trump is removed forcibly due to impeachment or some kind of wrongdoing, how far does it go? I mean, it would seem crazy that if the Trump-Pence ticket was colluding with Russia, that you say, oh, Trump's out and Pence is in. Pence was part of it. And who knew what when is less of an issue than the fact that they as a ticket, as a unit, potentially colluded with Russia. So I genuinely don't know how far down it goes. My assumption is that it's different if there's a resignation versus if there is an impeachment. But we're really getting ahead of ourselves here. I mean, I think it makes sense to wait and not even really dig into the conversation this deeply. A $10 super chat from GR. US and Russia would be firing at each other already if there wasn't some companionship between the two leaders. Tomahawks misused. If Syria is the target, then weapons are high-altitude carpet bombing or MARSOC operators. Okay, this is a very specific and coherent super chat from GR. Yes, I've said that this is a tactic isolated from broader strategy. This is also a tactic that is not totally coherent with a broader strategy that I understand, at least based on what Trump has said and based on the sort of geopolitical implications, if that makes sense. So I think that there's a lot to that. And remember, the term carpet bombing was used during the Republican presidential debates, mostly. I don't know that I remember the term carpet bombing in Democratic debates other than quoting Republican debates. But yes, 59 Tomahawk missiles is by no means the default or obvious, you know. Okay. God X of X Path sending a $5 Spanish super chat, which I will translate for folks, saying, ¿Considerarías hacer segmentos del show para hispanohablantes? So what he's asking is whether I would consider doing show segments for Spanish speakers. Listen, at this point, I don't know that I would rule anything out, and I don't know that I would guarantee that I would do anything at all because of what's going on with the YouTube crisis. The immediate thing is we have just lost 40 to 50% of all of our revenue, the revenue that goes to paying staff salaries and for the studio and for studio upgrades and connectivity and all the stuff we need. We've lost nearly half our revenue, okay? So if we can recoup the revenue, I am more than willing to consider doing all sorts of stuff. I don't know how much of an audience there would be for segments in Spanish, and we'd need to sort of think about, like, if I just put Spanish videos on our regular channel, I don't know. I'm just not sure about that. What is fascinating is I wonder if we created a new channel in Spanish where all the titles and descriptions and tags were in Spanish, would the YouTube ad algorithm even detect the content of what we're doing because it's in another language? That's kind of interesting. I don't know. Certainly something to look at. We've got a $10 super chat from Mystic Resistance, who says, you're the best progressive on here. Old media is delaying the inevitable. The internet is for what's coming, what coffee houses were for the European Enlightenment. We won't let you be silenced. All right. Thank you very much. Well, the best way to prevent that is by making a contribution at davidpakman.com/membership. split it up. Patreon.com/David Pakman Show. The way I'm thinking about this is membership is sort of like the Insiders Club, where we do extra content, and there's a members only monthly newsletter update that I write to our paid members and stuff like that. Okay. So that's the Insiders thing. And you can use the coupon code IVoted17 to get a monthly membership for $3.60. Patreon is sort of like the public, let's get together and fix this YouTube problem. So because it's public and you can go to patreon.com/David Pakman Show and see how we're doing in real time. Like right now, we have 861 patrons donating. That could create sort of a snowball effect where people see, hey, people are contributing, I'm going to contribute. So if you have $5 a month to split up, I would say get the 40% discounted membership on our website with the coupon code IVoted17, and then throw a couple bucks at Patreon. And again, the breakdown now is we've got 445 people donating $2 a month, 193 donating $5 a month, 60 patrons donating $10 per month, 27 donating $25 per month. We have our one $50 per month donor, and then 2 people at $100 a month. And honestly, the dollar is more than enough. The average YouTube viewer contributed when we had ads on YouTube about 30 to 50 cents per month. So if you just throw $1 at the Patreon, you're more than making up for what you were sort of sending our way by watching the ads. We've got a $5 super chat from Justin Singleton. I wonder if Trump is so intent on showing he's not a Russian puppet that he'll end up leading us to a war with Russia. Yeah, I hope not. And there was an earlier super chat that said, what if this is actually collusion with Russia in that it is creating an escalation in which Russia could potentially participate? And I think that was Victoria Lynn who proposed that. There's a lot of questions here. And most of the questions are coming from the reality that if we knew of Trump as a informed person with defined and nuanced views on foreign policy, we might see 59 Tomahawk missiles in Syria as representative of either reinforcing what we knew to be the Trump sort of doctrine on foreign policy, or as a sort of shift. It's just a random, it's an event, it's a shock event, and we have no idea what it represents in terms of the policy of Trump. We just heard from his Secretary of State days ago that they didn't even seem that opposed to Assad staying in power. But now, immediately after this chemical attack by the Assad regime, you see 59 Tomahawk missiles launched. So I, at this point, am just not ready to say what this tells us about what we can expect in terms of foreign policy going forward. It seems scattershot. It seems very, very scattershot to me. It's super unclear to me what, if anything, we can deduce from this, really. On Monday, we'll be talking extensively about Trump and Syria. I will also be talking about this incident of the vehicle that was driven into a crowd of people in Stockholm, Sweden. And this is a tactic that is becoming increasingly common, but I admit I don't know. I'm not even going to use or avoid using any particular words. I'm just going to say I don't yet know whether the Stockholm incident is the same MO as prior incidents that have used this drive a car into a crowd tactic. So I'm guessing this is why I didn't address it at all, other than just mentioning that on Monday we're going to be talking about it on the stream, because I'd rather just wait for the evidence to come out. We will be talking about the dozens of meetings that Jared Kushner had with Russians that did he forget? Or it must have just been an oversight, just like Jeff Sessions had an oversight, and Michael Flynn had an oversight, and Carter Page had oversights. But Jared Kushner, Trump's son-in-law and close advisor, forgot to disclose dozens of meetings he had with Russians from his application for a top-secret security clearance. And I didn't even get to this because this is just yet another story that's going on. Devin Nunes is stepping aside from running the House Intelligence Committee investigation into Trump-Russia. Exactly what had to happen. I mean, this guy proved I don't even have the energy at this point because it's just so insane that he even was still in that role. But we've had numerous indications that Devin Nunes is just not the guy to be running an investigation into Trump-Russia, Trump surrogate during the campaign, running to Trump to tell him what they have. So we've got that news. We'll be talking about that on Monday as well. So it's going to be a big show, very, very big show on Monday. Let's deal with a few other super chats here. Abbott55081 sent a $10 super chat. If the next presidential race was between Hillary Clinton and Gary Johnson, and you had to choose one person, who would you choose? I am deliberately, and I've done this before, been saying this before, I'm not dealing with future presidential elections right now, even hypothetical ones. I think that it is the wrong time to do it. We've got to deal with 2018. We've got to deal with the upcoming census and redistricting. We've got a madman in the White House. I think my policy has been, and I will continue continue making it, not to comment on specific hypothetical matchups. Halo Inverse has sent a $5 Canadian super chat. Much of Russia's investment in Syria is due to the Russian naval base in Tartus. Bombing one Syrian airfield might not actually hurt Russian interests. Yes, in a financial sense, that's true. But ideologically, you've seen Russia be supportive of the Assad regime, presumably just in their fight against ISIS. $10 super chat from Bill Sevier, or Sevier, I'm not sure how you pronounce your name. Nearly 300 civilians were murdered and merely considered collateral in a U.S. airstrike on March 17th in Mosul. How many died in Syria? Why are we coming to save the day? I don't know how many died in Syria. I don't know that we have a number. I have no idea about that because I've not read anything. All of the analyses I've read have been about the legality and the practicality of this attack. I've not read about that. I'm hoping that we get answers about that on Monday. $2 super chat from GR. Motive to lower social norms, stupidity standard, ? Yeah, I'm just not sure what the question is. GR had a brilliantly eloquent statement like 15 minutes ago. And then now I don't know I don't know what this one's about. NAF has sent a $5 Australian super chat. According to The Guardian, apparently the nuclear option has been used in the Senate. Gorsuch is in. My condolences. Okay, yeah, that's another story for Monday, which is that, yes, the Senate, the Republican-led Senate has decided that they were going to change the rules. Instead of needing 60 votes to confirm Neil Gorsuch to the Supreme Court, they changed it to only need a simple majority of 51. And as a result, they have confirmed Neil Gorsuch. We expected it. You know, I encouraged and was supportive of Democrats using the strategy, using any strategy they could to resist as long as possible, because Gorsuch has no business being there. There was no reason whatsoever for Merrick Garland not to have a hearing. But yes, the Republicans have done it. Mystic Resistance has sent a $2 super chat saying, "Do you know InfoWars still has monetization? WTF?" Yeah. I've seen that some ads have come back to InfoWars. I believe that what's going on is that there is a selective whitelisting of large YouTube channels, because we've seen ads come back to the Young Turks. We've seen ads come back to InfoWars. And I think that at the David Pakman Show, we're screwed. I think we are totally screwed at this point. I have no expectation whatsoever that any ads are going to come back. It's bad. I think we've been blacklisted. I think it's all unofficial, which is why YouTube won't tell me anything when I write to them. There's a dedicated email address for partners like the David Pakman Show channel to get support. They either will ignore me or send form letters that communicate nothing. It's very clear because ads disappeared everywhere for a couple days, and they've come back now. They've come back on a lot of channels. And I think that there is an unofficial whitelist and blacklist that YouTube is not formally talking about. I'm preparing for the worst, although hoping for the best. And that's why we've got to build the support, okay? So please, even if it's just $1, go to Patreon and throw $1 in. That'll cover more than what we would have earned from your viewing ads on our channel per month, okay? $1 a month, $12 a year. Patreon.com/David Pakman Show. And as you can see here, we started the stream with 843 patrons, and we're now up to 865 patrons. I would love to get to 1,000 patrons. We are not there. I don't think we're going to hit that goal by the end of the stream, but help us get close. If we don't hit it now, maybe we'll hit it tomorrow or Sunday, and that's still good. Okay, so thanks to Andrew Lapp for getting a membership. Thanks to Jill Stacy for getting a membership. Thanks to Catherine Dolan, who has pledged $2 a month on Patreon. Cheryl Ernst has pledged $4 a month on Patreon. Teresa Miller has pledged $2 a month on Patreon. Gabrielle McGregor has pledged $10 a month on Patreon. And Allison Kenny has signed up at davidpakman.com/membership. And also Sukumar has pledged $5 at patreon.com/davidpakmanshow. Slowly, very, very slowly, but surely, we are starting to make up some of the lost money. By the way, if you have zero money to contribute, or even if you do, but you want to sort of try to take some action to help us, okay? There is a thread on our Reddit discussion forum, which is at davidpakman.com/Reddit. You will find it. It is called People You Can Contact About the YouTube Ad Boycott, okay? This has very, very specific contacts that I have no idea if this will do anything, telling them turn the ads back on the David Pakman Show, all right? Be polite if you do any of this. You can call AdWords, which is the advertising system that sort of oversees ads across all of YouTube. They can then contact YouTube and say, you know, ads aren't showing. You want to know why. They got to be turned back on. It's 866-246-6453. There are 3 Twitter accounts that you can tweet to: YT Creators, Team YouTube, and Susan Wojcicki. I think that's how she pronounces her last name. This is the YouTube CEO. It's SUSANWOJCICKI. You can also email YouTube Media Relations, press@youtube.com. Also, Google does have a phone number, 650-253-0000. I don't know what you have to press to get a hold of someone when you called that, but I've been told anecdotally that you can get a hold of an actual person if you do that, okay? So whether or not you're able to contribute anything financially at patreon.com/davidpakmanshow or at davidpakman.com/membership, you can do that. And if you missed any of what I said, it's all on our Reddit discussion forum, and we've got all the info there. Okay, GR sent a $10 super chat. It took too long to come up. Stupidity standard headline, David. Mr. President bombs Syria. Everyone is happy. No one notices the abnormalities. Studies show they are used to seeing dumb SH. No BS radar. All right, you're killing it, GR. You clearly know way more about this than I do, because I don't have any idea what you're talking about. AKU47 has sent a $5 Canadian super chat. Alt-righters now hate Trump because of the strikes. They believe this is a false flag attack by ISIS to recruit more. Source InfoWars. Will you look into or debunk? Yeah, I'm not surprised that the source is InfoWars. I will take a look at it. Cherim Job, notice how careful I was saying that, has sent a $5 super chat saying, thoughts on the Stockholm attack? Recalled when Trump falsely said something happened there? I don't know, kind of strange. By the way, happy to support. Yeah, I'm not going to go deeper into the Stockholm attack until Monday. I just want a little bit of time to see more about what happened there. I just want to find out what happened there before I comment on that. Okay, so it's on my list. I already talked about that. We will be talking about that on the Monday show. But I don't think it makes sense to say too much more right now. Big thank you to Stephen Rink, who just pledged $2 a month at patreon.com/David Pakman Show to help us fight the YouTube boycott, which is pushing money away from shows like ours and towards corporate media. Also, Sandra Ringener has pledged $5 at patreon.com/David Pakman Show. And Daniel Haber has pledged $2 a month at patreon.com/David Pakman Show. If you really can't afford $2 a month, by all means, that's fine, right? I mean, we're going to do everything we can to keep doing the show for free, even though we're no longer making any money on YouTube. But if you can spare $1 a month, or $2 a month. We have 345,000 YouTube subscribers. If just a fraction of you do this, we'll make up the lost revenue very, very quickly. And that's the pitch, right? I mean, we're talking about a dollar or two a month here, and then we won't have to pare down anything that we're doing. And I think that's it's a very simple platform. You just go to patreon.com/David Pakman Show, and you hit the big orange button, become a patron. It doesn't matter what you contribute. And the thing about Patreon is it sort of takes on a life of its own in that when people see donations, they're more likely to make donations because they participate in the sort of social nature of it. And that's why it's, I think, picking up. And we've got, nearly at this point, 800 and closing in on 900. We've got 868 patrons there, including our newest Gert Hiskey there. Okay. Let's get to a few other super chats. Bill Sevier has sent a $2 super chat. 300 civilians killed by the U.S., 75 civilians killed by the Syrian government. I've not fact-checked that, but if that is true, that is stunning. That is absolutely stunning. Isaiah Rowe sent a $10 super chat. If you were drafted to fight in World War III, would you go? Well, who's fighting in it, number one? What is this World War III? If the idea is that it's the U.S., Syria, Russia, who knows who else? I doubt it. I think I'm old enough where I wouldn't be drafted, right? I don't know. Isn't like 26 the draft age, the max draft age? I don't know exactly what it is. But I think I would not have to worry about that because I think I'm just too old. Weird. It's weird starting to be too old for stuff. Catherine Dolan has sent a $2 super chat. You're welcome. Sorry, it couldn't be more. Sad face. Listen, thank you, Catherine. And this is what I think a lot of people, there's sometimes this tendency where if you feel like you can't donate enough for it to be impactful on your own, that you don't donate anything. And recall that you were probably only contributing about 30 to 50 cents a month to us in revenue by watching our YouTube videos. So even your dollar, you're more than making up for what we're losing because of the ad boycott and not having ads or making any money on YouTube. So this is one of those cases where actually a dollar is all we're asking for because that actually more than makes up for what we were getting from you anyway. So if you can only donate $1 a month, by all means, that there's no reason not to do it because it more than covers what we were getting. Okay, a couple notes. Number one, the David Pakman Show Reddit discussion forum continues to grow. It's up to nearly 3,300 subscribers. A lot of our viewers and listeners participate there. You can find it at davidpakman.com/Reddit, REDDIT. Okay, that's number one. We also have a Discord server where instead of just listening to me talk, people who watch the show can actually talk to each other. And you can get the details about the Discord server, which one of our moderators on Reddit has set up. It's a post on Reddit at davidpakman.com/Reddit. Okay, so you can check that out as well. Also, we are going to be. I'm looking at whether there's any interest in soon doing. It would be great to bring more people into these live streams in some way. But it can't just be a free-for-all of sorts. So I'm trying to think of other ways to engage the audience. The super chats are great. The regular chat goes by so quickly that it's very hard to really donate, or rather to notice much, which is why the donations through super chat are a good way to participate. But if you have other ideas of how to get more audience involvement in the live streams, I'm all ears. At this point, the more audience involvement, the better, given what's going on with the YouTube scandal. We have a $50 super chat from Deek or Deeched Vought. This is not a name that I can easily say. Trump's action was clearly unconstitutional. If Obama had done this, the Republicans would have tried to impeach. We support the David Pakman Show. Listen, Trump himself said that presidents need, Trump said that Obama needs congressional approval. Maybe he thought it didn't apply to him. But yes, There is a constitutionality aspect to this. I mentioned it. I don't think it is the most important aspect because it also is what I believe to be an illogical and not productive or strategically positive policy. But yes, there's a constitutionality aspect to this, and we'll talk about that on Monday. I'm not going to ignore that. I just don't think it's the most important aspect, given that there's no reason that we should be doing this, period. Donald Trump is here, sending a $2 super chat. Me donating will trigger the trolls. Yes, people clearly seem to have been triggered, but I think that also the Donald Trump donation is triggering a lot of new Patreon donors. Andrew Gale and Courtney Haynes and Seconds in Time have become donors at patreon.com/David Pakman Show. Sergio Santos has sent a $2 super chat. Do you think Trump might get a JFK ending too? That is not the type of thing that, listen, if that's what you want to speculate on, by all means go ahead. But I think for obvious reasons, I don't think it's the type of thing that makes sense for me to say too much about. Although from a purely pragmatic standpoint, my guess is Secret Service protection is better today than it was 50 years ago. I don't know. That's just that's my only thought about that. And on that note, we are going to wrap up. I've got to run. Please continue contributing at patreon.com/David Pakman Show. Contribute at davidpakman.com/membership. More live streams coming soon. You know they will.